Good morning, beautiful souls. Happy Friday. Tim Wild's Friday Ascension update. Beautiful morning in the woods. And I've just been sat here tuning in, really feeling the energy of May and how different it is to the previous month. The incredible intensity that we felt through January, February, March, April, and now we've kind of stepped through. There was quite a lot of focus yesterday on the 5-5 portal, or the kind of the synchronicity of the dates. But by my feelings, it is now every day on this planet is now so powerful that we have an opportunity to make a spiritual event of every minute, every hour, every bit of time that we spend here, as our own personal energy is becoming increasingly more anchored, more sacred, more expansive. And I just want to kind of continue and expand on a theme that I've been looking at previously, which works with the concept of spiritual sovereignty, self-ownership, and also the kind of the purpose for which you and I have incarnated on earth at this time for. And needless to say, there is an incredible amount of increasing pressure from the third dimensional matrix to conform, to obey, to hand power over. And many of us who've been aware of the kind of the agenda or the game for a period of time are kind of sat here almost like waiting or watching with anticipation and trepidation as to what their next move is. And I was thinking about that. You know, how much of our expectation is kind of embroiled into the empowering the phases of what they produce, and what comes out of the third dimensional matrix that actually has the capacity or the power to affect us. So bearing that in mind, when I saw that pattern, I decided to withdraw my energy and my focus on that completely, because just by the very anticipation of, oh, what are they going to do next? What could we possibly be subjected to? This is exactly what I was talking about previously, about fear seeding, about a collective expectation creating a platform of energetic realities which then start to take flow and take motion. So you listening to this morning, you are a highly evolved soul who has stepped down from one of many corners of the universe, the multiverse, and chosen to undergo the incredibly brave task of occupying a physical body here on Earth, primarily at the end of the third dimension. Okay, now this is a point worth noting. All of us were born into 3D, unless you happen to be like 8 years old and listening to this, which I somehow doubt. But if you are, kudos to you. Start them young and all that. But most of us, if not all of us, were born into the third dimension, the tail end of the third dimension, the point at which we could see the change on the horizon. Now, this is a change that has been predicted for millennia. Okay, the Mayans saw it coming, many other religions and civilizations saw it coming. Many of them tried to actually seed with a kind of like a pre-plan, like a fear scenario of the 21st of December 2012, the cosmic moment, being a date of cataclysm, the end of the world. You know, the Mayans couldn't see any further than that point. When their seers looked into the future, with their incredible powers of sight, they couldn't see past that point. They couldn't see past that date. It was like they ran into a brick wall. So therefore, they regarded it as the end of the world, and they were absolutely right. But in a kind of not in the way that we translated it to be. So the end of the world that we knew previously, finished. It ended on the 21st of December 2012, the cosmic moment. I've spoken that date, that term, so many times in the last 10 years, simply because that was the cutoff date. It's so vitally important in my heart because it was the end of the Atlantean experiment. Okay, so Atlantis existed in its various forms and constructions for 260,000 years. It took 10,000 years to set up. When it fell 10,000 years ago, disappeared beneath the waves in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, it then took 10,000 years to deconstruct. So that 10,000 years of deconstruction was the very, very intensive, very low vibration, or the kind of almost like the bottom of the barrel of 3D, which a lot of us experience very viscerally on this planet. And that is what we've been spending so much time clearing out of our bodies, our fields, our Akashic records so intensely recently. All of these experiences, all of the kind of the ties, all of the timelines, all of the connections, all of the previous relationships and memories that are coming up for us at the moment in our shadow work, they are visible so that we can release them and move forwards without that ballast, without that anchoring into that lower frequency, into the patterns of behavior which is inspired within us. So to me, the cosmic moment is the date. You know, there's other very important dates. In fact, there's several schools of thought that said that wasn't even the true cosmic moment. It's been later on down the line. But as far as the end of the Atlantean experiment is concerned, that is the date that it occurred. And overnight, the energy shifted from 3D to 4D. So all of us were born in the third dimension. And upon our birth, upon our occupation of this current suit, we then could see the finish line. The finish line was in sight. It's within our incarnation. So we knew what we were signing up for. We knew what we were taking on when we came down to this planet. And I regard that as an incredibly brave role. So we signed up as warriors, as leaders, as teachers of the new earth, as an inspiration of light to those that are struggling to identify with and hold their own. So at the moment, the buzzword, and it has turned into a bit of a buzzword, sovereignty, okay? And you see it completely splashed all around at various levels of social media. But what does it truly mean? What does being a sovereign soul actually entail? A lot of the time, the application of the word sovereignty means rejection of man-made laws. Okay, so you have the situations that have been occurring for the last 2 years or so that have really brought the term on a structural level, sovereignty, into play. So people have claimed their sovereignty. They've rejected the laws that are unjust, untrue, the ones that have been kind of sown in, particularly in the UK. You've got to kind of look at things like the falsities of the straw man and maritime law and things like that. And so this kind of the ignition of the sovereign being has come into play. But on a spiritual level, what does sovereignty mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to all of us occupying our roles around the world, around the planet, as we anchor yet more of our mighty I Am presence on a daily basis? What does sovereignty mean? How do we get up every day and claim the energy, the master pillar form of sovereignty. And it always, and with anything on the spiritual pathway, simplicity is key. Okay, the spiritual definitions, meanings, situations, all of the scenarios that can play out can get terribly overcomplicated. Human minds are complicated. Okay, like once we start analyzing things and breaking them down, the ego comes into play. It gets mixed in with the vibration of the heart. All the lessons that might be floating around within our bodies, our fields and our chakras start kind of mixing in, and all of a sudden you've got a complicated scenario. But sovereignty is simple. Sovereignty is anchoring the essence of the mighty I Am presence in, and acting upon the duties or the promptings of the heart in alignment with spiritual law. Okay, so ultimately, when you step out into the world on a daily basis, anchored in your own light and your own truth, okay, but that truth is heart-centered, and that's another definition I'd like to have a look at this at some point, the definition of truth. So sovereignty is standing excuse me, in your own mighty I Am presence, radiating your light, unaffected by the complexities, the mundanities, the anchors, all of the things that constituted the third dimension that have an ability to drag us or pull us back down into a vibration that we no longer wish to function at, the one that we can't thrive at. Okay, so effectively, with the quantity of light, the quantity of information, the increasing connections, and all of the spiritual assistance that we've got at the moment, we should be thriving. Okay, we should be moving through every single lesson that is presented to us at the moment with grace, with ease, with self-empowerment. But the only thing that is currently stopping us from doing so is the belief in our own power. And again, I personally feel that belief in confidence in oneself, that mighty I Am power, again, expresses spiritual sovereignty. So you have to be certain about the actions that you are taking. You have to be certain about the words that you are speaking. You have to be self-guided to the point where you are taking a pathway or a direction that is very arrow-like, with its ability to achieve and create. And that, I feel, has a huge amount of sovereign energy sewn into it. And that is by far one of the most difficult things to be doing when you're kind of stepping out, when we're embracing this role, is to suddenly be faced with the opportunity of growth, and it is an opportunity of growth, to make difficult decisions, to traverse difficult circumstances, to maybe speak a difficult truth, but do so because you know you have got to do so. Okay, it's again facing fears, facing the things that really rattle our cages and frighten us, or make us feel like we're no longer in the safety of our previous cocoon. The spiritual pathway, and I was saying this in a podcast interview with a wonderful lady called Kelly Vikings yesterday. It's when we take on this role on the spiritual pathway, a lot of the time people are drawn to the spiritual pathway because it involves angels, it involves crystals, it involves high frequency vibrations and an amazing rush of beautiful connectivity and starlit energies when we first step onto this pathway, and that is something that we never forget. I personally believe that the first real full-on spiritual connection is something that we never forget. It'll always be very high on the list of memories and things that we kind of log over the course of our incarnation. There will always have been something, a flashpoint, an ignition point that would have brought you to where you are now. Okay, it might have been a complete life change. It might have been something that literally catapulted you out of the third dimension and drew you towards raising your vibration. And most of the time, that first glimmer, that first ignition, will be the thing that stays its course all the way through your spiritual pathway. So the thing that usually draws us in to be, and I say this in inverted commas, a spiritual individual. Okay, I think as we move into these kind of like the higher vibrations, as we become less polarized within ourselves, the old definitions that we gave ourselves, the old boxes, just naturally fall away. They fall away a lot, like a lot of the other things that we took for granted as being part of our lives in 3D. And the higher we raise our vibration, and the more that we live in a state of inner peace, love, sovereignty, groundedness, unity, these things, they cease to matter like they used to. So coming back to what I was originally looking at, this point of sovereignty, this point of owning our incarnation, being a master in human form. There has been so much information put out recently about us having our power taken away, about our futures being controlled. And again, and I saw another lovely piece written by Mary Allison about this one of these, another buzzword: you will own nothing and be happy. That is not going to happen. It defies our abilities to create abundantly, to wrap that kind of statement around ourselves and be afraid of it. You know, it's asking us to be afraid of having all of our stuff taken away from us, for us not being able to create for ourselves, to be reliant on this kind of parental figure that provides everything for us, providing that we conform with its rules, its constructions and its regulations. I have never at any point in my entire life on this planet, this time round I might add, felt as free as I do now. I have never felt any more disconnected from the constraints or the constructions or the wailings of the third dimension than I do now. And I can only assume that disconnection from the carnival, the parade that's going on there, will just increase and grow every day. So if you are feeling anxious, stuck, stressed, or threatened by the wording that you are hearing being used by these souls, by the beings that want to hold everybody in a state of imprisoned empowerment, that's not what we've incarnated to do. Okay, it's just, I find it staggering that we would allow ourselves to even believe that we've incarnated on this world from these incredibly high vibrations to simply be imprisoned and told what to do. We are the lock breakers, we're the breakers of the chains. Okay, we've been asked to hold our lines for a considerable period of time by the higher forces, to anchor the light, to be the light, to ensure that the fifth dimensional platform around this world is stable and it grows, and it is now getting to the point where we simply disengage with our sovereignty, with our power, with our I am presence, and our love and our sense of personal truth. Once we are standing in that, we are utterly uncontrollable on a lower vibration. And it's not something that we need to be angry about. It's not something that we need to rage, although there is a righteous quantity of anger in many of us, because we might have woken up to this recently and realised just how unjust and unfair the world that we were living in previously actually is. We might be seeing these unjust and unfair things happening to others and feel empathically the kind of the indignation and the rage about that. We need to move forwards from that, and that's not lack of compassion. That's the observer platform with which we have the power and the capacity to make the changes upon. So, by the simple act of owning our empowerment, our ability to anchor that light and our truth into this humble human, all of us are kind of, we've got these human bodies, so we've kind of been trained to think, or we've been conditioned to believe that we are powerless, that we are small, that we have no ability to affect the world around us. But that is so far removed from the actual reality of our spiritual capacity, and it's time to start breaking out, start breaking out the light very visibly. It doesn't have to be noisy, it doesn't have to be shouting from the rooftops or standing on orange boxes preaching to a crowd. It simply means unleashing that light, allowing it to start flow from our physical unit to everyone and everything around us, dauntlessly, with no off switch. Okay, once this starts to flow from each and every one of us on a heartfelt capacity, the concept of any resistance from 3D will just simply disintegrate over the next decade or so. So do as best you can unplug from what you are seeing, what you are hearing, and what you might be feeling threatened by the third dimensional matrix at the moment. They are loud for a reason. They are complaining bitterly because they are losing an incredible amount of ground on a daily basis to those that are reclaiming their sovereignty, their truth, standing in their mighty I am presence. And it only takes one shaft of light to completely bring the power of the universe into the shadow realms. So just be aware that even if you are feeling isolated and alone at the moment, your role on this planet is absolutely vital. And unified, we're even more strong. We're even stronger. We're unstoppable. So, happy Friday. Now, I will be joining forces with my lovely friend Archangel Metatron on the 10th, which is, I believe, Tuesday next week, for my Metatron to Light Bath workshop. That's just going to be a nice healing space. I think we all need it at the moment. We all deserve it. We all deserve a bit of healing. And I'm going to be working with a set of tools that Archangel Metatron gave me in 2013 very kindly, and I'll be telling the story about it as well. So if you want to join me, see you there. Lots of love. I'll be back on Monday with Meditation Monday. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye for now.